Yes, we will start now.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to fourth day of National One Week Workshop organized by Bahona College Economics Department of Economics. I hope you all are enjoying well. I, on behalf of the workshop organizing committee, Dr. Chandra, welcome you to this session titled as Creating Content for Newspaper. Uh, Today, we are not to have among us Dr. Girish Baruah from DKT College for newspaper. Uh, at this moment, I'd like to take a moment to introduce our honorable research person, sir, to all of you. Dr. Baruah earned his MPhil degree from Andhra University and he completed his doctoral studies from Guwahati University. His doctoral thesis was titled as A Critical Study of the Vedantic Concept of Ultimate Reality with special reference to Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan. He has been an avid author, come editor of many books in both English and Assamese languages. Have received accolades from eminent literary organization Assam Sahitya Sabha. Sorry for the interruption. His book biodata has been also published in Philosopher's Index, published by Bowling Green State University of Ohio, USA. His life sketch has been published in Who's Who of Indian Writers, published by Sahitya Academy. Also, Who's Who of Teachers and Philosophers of India by Indian Council of Philosophical Research. He has also translated 2 volumes of works of Swami Vivekananda. An avid author, reader, teacher, Dr. Girish Baruah would enlighten us today with his enlightening talk on creating content for newspaper. I'd also like to mention he professionally work in DKT College, who has been also my alma mater. I'm very much honored to have you among us, sir. The forum is for you now.
Thank you. Uh, I welcome to this session of the webinar organized by the Economics Department of Bahona College. Today's topic is the creative writing in newspaper. I was not given as creative content in newspaper. I was given the topic as creative writing in newspaper. So I will speak on that subject, creative writing on newspaper. You see, before starting the exact answer to this topic, I will elaborate the concept of creation first. As it has been said, creative writing. So the word creative has come from the word creation. And it is said that something is created out of nothing. For example, when we say God created the world, it means that God has created the world out of nothing. But in my view, nothing can comes out of nothing. There is a saying in Latin, ex nihilo nihil fit. Nothing comes out of nothing. That means primarily something must be there so that somebody create or construct something else. All right, of course, there is a difference between the word creation and construction. The word creation is usually used to create something out of nothing, as something like a magician creates something. Suppose 100 note has been created by the magician out of nothing. To construct means to make, and to make some raw material or primary material is necessary. For example, when you say the mason has constructed the house out of the materials, brick, mortar, etc. So these elements are necessary to construct something. Now, whether writing is a construction or is a creation, that's a question I am to answer. You see, as I have said, that nothing comes out of nothing. To create also, something must be there beforehand. And to construct also, something must be there beforehand. So I feel that there is no qualitative difference between creation and construction, but there is only difference of degree between the two. Now you see, I am today particularly concerned with newspaper writing. In newspaper, various writings are there, reporting is there, editorial is there, column writing is there, and other creative writings are also there. For example, novel, short story, poem, drama, etc. And also there are some critical writing, just like articles, papers, etc. Now, in my view, only novels or poetry or drama or short story, this alone cannot be said to be creative writing. I feel that creative writing is there in other forms of writing also, for example, the article writing or criticism, etc. In it also, there is some sort of creativity. Even in a market list, bazaar list also, you will find some creativity, how to arrange that. And actually in writing, we need two things. One is matter and the other is form. Suppose you are asked to write a ka from out of the elements which in Assam is called bholguti. Suppose the person A has been given to make ka from out of those bholgutis. Now, the person A will construct, or rather you can say will create ka by giving some form to the elements, namely bholguti. Now suppose you are engaging two persons to write the ka, A and B. The elements are the same bholguti, but when two persons will write or to make ka, there will be difference between these two cause. Now difference is not there as regards the elements, but difference is there as regards form. Definitely one ka will be better than the other. Now why better? Because the first man, for example, A, he forms the ka in a very elegant manner, in a very artistic manner, in a very aesthetic manner. But other person, he has no such concepts as aesthetic concepts, or he has no concern for beauty, or he has no idea how to form a letter. So it depends. For a qualitative writing, in newspaper also, we need qualitative writing because for whom you are writing? You are writing for readers. If there be no reader, then writing is meaningless. Therefore, you see, to satisfy the readers, a newspaper goes on continuing publishing when the readers read it. If there be no reader, then there is no necessity of publishing a newspaper. Now, you see, we write with sentences, and sentences make language. Sentences not only make language, sentences make literature also. We have one concept like literary writing. The literature is nothing but literary writing. Now, in newspaper also, we should have literary writing. Even in a newspaper, even in a report, suppose some journalist or some reporter is sending a report to publish in a newspaper, it will be published. Now, suppose the same event has been written in two different newspapers by two different journalists. Now, definitely there will be difference between these two reporting. One reporting may be liked by the people, the readers. The other reporting may not be liked by the people. Why? Why it is so? You see, we can write a sentence, the same sentence, which means the same thing in different ways. Let me refer to Kalidasa. You have heard the name Kalidasa, the famous dramatist of India. Not only dramatist, he was also a poet. You know, he was the member of King Chandragupta. One day, Chandragupta asked the members of his court to translate this sentence, that a dry wood is lying before you. Now, the other members, they translated it into Sanskrit as Nirasa Torubaro Puratu Bhati. Kalidasa remained silent. The king asked him, why do you remain silent? He said, yes, sir, I am thinking over the matter, how to translate it. All right, please tell me what is your translation. Then he said, Nirasa Torubaro Puratu Bhati. See the difference of these two sentences, meaning is the same. Suskam kastham, dry wood, tisthoti, lying agre before you. It is, this sentence is as dry as the dry wood. But when Kalidasa translated Nirasa means dry, Tarubaro means wood, Purato means in front of you or before you. Bhati means exists. See the difference of these two sentences. You see, it is said generally that in the books of philosophy, no literature is there. Or in books of science also, literature may not be there. But it is not the case. In a book of philosophy also, you may have literature. I am citing one example from the book Indian Philosophy written by Dr. Radhakrishnan. In a certain place, there is a sentence written by him. The sentence is, unreal the world is, illusory it is not. If I am asked to write that sentence, I write, the world is unreal, it is not illusory. Now see the difference between these two sentences. The first sentence, unreal the world is, illusory it is not, is a poetic sentence. You see, you can give some poetic tinge in prose literature also, as has been given by Dr. Radhakrishnan. I should refer certain things from Ramayana, you see. That is, there is a line in Ramayana written by Valmiki in the Satsatarinsa Sarga. Stimitam gantumarebe bhayat Godabari nadi. You see, when Sita was taken by Ravana, by the Pushpagratha, they crossed the Godabari river, and the Godabari river began to flow very slowly because of the fear. Now, do you believe that a river can flow slowly when they see a danger? It sees a danger? Definitely not. Then why Kalidasa wrote in that way? It is literature, you see. He puts before us a type of literature, very unique in form. Stimitam gantumare bhayat Godabari nadi. I should refer something from Assamese also. You see, you have heard the novel Surujmukhir Sapna by Syed Abdul Malik. Now, he starts the novel with the sentence, Dhanshiri Ajiu boy. You see, this sentence is similar to the sentence which is there in the very caption of the novel written by Mikhail Sholokhov, and quiet close the dawn. See the very elegancy of this sentence, and quiet close the dawn. And it's not necessary here. Why he has written? There is some reference, you see. It reminds you something of the past. This novel has been translated into Assamese by Dr. Nogen Thakur of Dergaon. He was the professor of Assamese in Bahona University. So it's a very, for this novel, you see, he was awarded Nobel Prize. A very lucid novel. So there are so many examples of this type that you can write a sentence in different way. Let me give an example from Shakespeare. Suppose I am telling my mother, "Mother, I am hungry." But Shakespeare did not say like that. "Mother, I am hungry." Shakespeare did not say. He said, "Let it be known to thy birth giver that thy stomach consists of nothing." He's not saying, "I am hungry." He said, "My stomach consists of nothing." And he is not addressing like mother, but thy birth giver. See the difference. Again, I refer to kids. It's a car stopped due to engine disorder. Now, what he explains, you see, the diabolical infernal teen can be misbehaving again. He says that the engine is nothing but the diabolical infernal teen, T-I-N, teen. And it is misbehaving. He said the engine is not out of order, but it is misbehaving. See the difference of language. Now, if those who write in newspapers, if they write these sentences, the newspaper which is prevalent with such sentences, I'm sure the newspaper will last long and the readership will increase day by day. So art is necessary everywhere. Whether you speak, whether you write, whether you do something, whether you work, whether you give a lecture, everywhere there is aesthetic sense. Without an aesthetic sense, artistic feeling cannot be aroused. You hear the name Sir Winston Churchill. He was the Prime Minister of England before the very independence of India. Had there been Winston Churchill, India would have not obtained independence. Only due to the ministership of Attlee, it was independent. Now, at first, Churchill could not give lecture, could not deliver lecture. As he was to be the Prime Minister, he would have to give lecture in the Parliament. So he erected a house behind his main house, and he erected a huge mirror in that house, and he began to practice before the mirror how to speak. So how to speak and how to speak in an artistic manner, there's a difference. So I should say, as I have said you beforehand, there's a difference between language and literature. If we write a newspaper with literary language, it will be adorable. It will be accepted by all. If the language is skeleton, you see, literature is this flesh and muscles. So you see, in literature, there is a content of beauty. With the human beings, we hanker after beauty. We like to see the full moon, for example, Purnima June, what is called. Tomorrow it will be. We like it. We don't like the dark night. We like the full moon night. So we are attracted to the beauty. Now you see, in a gamusa, as you know, which is the Sabhiman of the Assamese society, you see, when the weaver constructs a gamusa, weaves a gamusa, and its main purpose is to wipe your body after bath. So in this gamusa, the asuful is not necessary for this purpose. Now why asuful is given? Because there is the sense of beauty. There is aesthetic sense in the mind of the weaver. And that aesthetic sense has been reflected as asuful in the gamusa. So the gamusa has become a beautiful thing. It has become a lovable thing. Although it is used as, you see, a very primary purpose, that is washing your body. But it has become a symbol of our culture. Why? Due to this asuful, due to this special asuful. So the difference between language and literature is something like the difference between architecture and sculpture. So architecture is known as sthapatya in Assamese or Sanskrit, and sculpture is known as bhaskarya. Mohan Bora defined poetry as Kobita Shabdar Bhaskarya. You see, we write poem with the help of words. The words are the elements. Words are the constituents of language. But when you have to put something, the aesthetic elements you have to put, then it will become bhaskarya, that is sculpture. You have seen Taj Mahal. Taj Mahal is a very beautiful tomb in the world. Why? Because of his bhaskarya, because of his sculpture. Why we go to see the Taj Mahal? Well, it is a thing of beauty. As it is said by the poet, the thing of beauty is joy forever. The thing of beauty is joy forever, mind it. Now you see, when you are publishing a newspaper and when you give it to the readers, they must enjoy joy along with information. We write in newspaper primarily due to information. We like to inform something to others, and mainly we inform with the help of language. Suppose I have a good news. I want to give this good news to my friend. I want to divulge it through my language. So it is very much necessary that we are to talk with other people. When letters were not discovered, when writing was not discovered, then people had to speak. Through speaking, they had to relate their stories to others. Now, it is said that when a reporter gives reporting in a newspaper, it is also called story writing. Story writing is not only the short story writing, but every type of description, every type of narrative. It may be a piece of literature. It may be a story. You see, everywhere there is a point of description. There are two things. Suppose you are asked to write an essay. Either you may write a descriptive essay, you may write a narrative essay, or you may write a reflexive essay. Suppose you are asked to write on the Taj Mahal. Write an essay on the Taj Mahal, that will be descriptive essay. Suppose you are asked to write on an event. Suppose an event which is going on in your college. or in your school or somewhere else, any event, that will be a narrative essay to describe an event means a narration. It is a narrative essay. Suppose you are asked to describe something on value, on some ideas, on some concepts. That will be reflexive essay. The reflection is a type of our thinking. You see, the next thing which we require in creative writing is imagination. Imagination is utmost necessary for writing something. It is very much necessary in writing dramas or short stories or novels, etc. But this imagination is necessary in reporting also. As I've already said, that there may be two types of reporting. Two men will report differently because the imagination of one man is different from that of the other. Of course, creativity is an inborn quality in man. Simply you have to cultivate it. Somebody can cultivate it, somebody cannot cultivate it. That's the difference. But inherently it must be there in you. In some people, it is in a higher level, and in some people, it is in the lower level. So imagination is must. But only imagination will not do, because you are writing something consciously. And to write something consciously, you require thinking, thought, to think. There was a philosopher whose name was René Descartes. He said, cogito ergo sum. To be means to think. That means we are human beings because we think. Aristotle also said that man is a rational animal, meaning man is a thinking animal. We cannot but think. So when you go to write something, you must think first that I will write on this topic. I will report these events. So all the events which are going on in the society, you cannot report. You must select them. For selection also, report also, you need thought. You need imagination. So all these things, thinking, imagination, rationality, reasoning, the criticality, etc. All these are called by Dr. Radhakrishnan as integral experience. Without integral experience, you cannot have a good writing. Writing may be of two kinds. One may be bad and the other may be good. When you go to estimate something, to estimate means to evaluate. Suppose a critic is going to evaluate some writing in a newspaper. What he will do? So he will search for the aesthetic beauty which is contained in that piece of writing. If he finds the aesthetic beauty, then it will be a good writing. If he does not find it, then it will be bad writing. Now, in a newspaper, there may be bad writing also, there may be good writing also. It depends upon the writers. The writer is responsible for good writing and bad writing. So the main thing is, as I have already said you in the connection with Churchill, that you need practice. It is said in Assamese that Adbhakar nor Kornapothe Korefor. You can throw an arrow through the kind by means of practice, which is in Assamese called Onushilon. Without Onushilon, you see, you cannot achieve something. And it is also said that nothing comes to an unprepared mind. You see, there is another human faculty which is known as intuition, I-N-T-U-I-T-I-O-N. Intuition also is necessary in writing. I studied intuition very deeply when I did my MPhil in Andhra University. My dissertation was on intuition. It's a very difficult subject, however. Now, what is intuition? Intuition is the passing of the mind. Radhakrishnan defines it. Intuition is by being. Intuition is concerned with knowledge, you see. Without prior knowledge, you cannot write anything. And knowledge may be had from different sources. Different means are there so that you can have knowledge. You can have knowledge from your perceptual experience. You can have knowledge from inference, from reasoning. You can have knowledge from intuition. You can have knowledge from informations that we either find in radio, or you find in television, or you find in newspaper, or you find in books. So books are the very ingredient from which we get our knowledge. So that means the writing material, whatever you call a newspaper, book, magazine, journal, whatever you call it, it is full of writing. Without writing, there cannot be a newspaper. It is printed in a newspaper. It's printed in a paper. Therefore, it is called newspaper, printed paper. Who knows? One day there may not be printed paper now because these other means are coming up, internet and etc. Blogs, you can write in blogs also. In internet, you can convey your thought. But for some time it will remain. And even if the printed newspaper may not be there, you write, the writing will not come to an end, whatever it may be the form. You see, in the primitive ages, people wrote in the caves, you see, on the rocks, on timber, on art. But those days are gone, those become as the museum things. Now one day also this printed paper will be a museum things. But even then the writing is necessary. I am not confined. The newspaper should be, writing should be there only in newspaper. It will go on either in the electronic media or in something. After electronic media also some other media will come. Because the human civilization will go on forever. We don't know how far it will be going. The world will not come to an end so shortly. So, as I have said you, although we write with the help of language, when we go to write in a newspaper, we need a literary writing. So, the difference between language and literature is something, the difference between civilization and culture. Civilization is the material civilization. Suppose you have in your town or in your village, there are streets, there are buildings. These comprise the very civilization. Suppose in the past, we did not have bathrooms. And when the bathrooms were discovered or invented, we advanced a bit in our civilization. Or when people began to wear clothes, they advanced in the path of civilization. That is civilization. Now, what is culture? As I have said, that a time was there was no gamusa. We wiped our body with different clothes, different things, etc. But when the gamusa was discovered, we advanced in the path of civilization. And when asuful was infused in it, we advanced in the ladder of culture. The culture means what? Culture means the covering up of nudity. You have to cover the nudity. Now, we require literature so that we can cover up the nudity of our language. I have already shown you the differences, how language is spoken. So, the main function of a writer, whether he writes in a book or in a magazine or in a newspaper, wherever it may be, he must use literary language. Only then it will be accepted. I have already said you that that without readers, you see, there is no meaning of writing anything. Without reader. Now, I will quote one thing from a person, a philosopher whose name is Fenelon, Fenelon. He wrote about reading in this way. If the riches of India or the crowns of all the kingdoms of Europe were laid at my feet in exchange for my love for reading, I would spurn them all. See how much man loves reading. How much man loves reading. He said that if I am giving all the wealth of the world, I will spurn them. I will not accept them. What I will accept? I will accept only reading. See, reading is so much necessary. When writing developed, then people, you see, they learned how to read. I have always said that writing has no meaning without reading. Suppose you are giving a lecture in a hall. If there be no people, no audience, then what is the use of your lecture? Somebody must be there to receive what you say. Somebody must be there to receive what you write. If there be no somebody, then what's the use? So your writing must be liked by the people who read. You are reading a newspaper. So people, they want to change newspaper from time to time. Oh, I don't like this newspaper, please give another. Why? Why they select different newspaper? Why they prefer one newspaper in place of another? Because of this thing. The newspaper has given him not only information but also enjoyment. You see, whatever you do, you must do with your enjoyment. Then only people receive it. That, oh, I will receive enjoyment. Yeah. See, again, I quote a poem written by famous poet Byron. He wrote about reading is this. In reading authors, when you find bright passages, minded, they strike your mind. Only bright passages strike your mind, not dull passages. Your writing should not be dull, but it should be interesting. It should be bright. Then only it will interest you. And which perhaps you may have reason to think on. You see, a writing must be capable of infusing thinking in your mind. They must provoke your thinking. If a writing does not provoke your thinking, then what is the use of writing? At other reason, be not contented with the sight. Only sight is not enough. But take them down to black and white. So, you see, suppose you are reading an article in a newspaper. it has given some new thoughts to you. It has brought about some new thoughts to you. And you can write on it, either critical or whatever may be. So it will give you some impetus to write. So the reader is the response to what you write. He responds to your writing. And that response gives you something. Gives you some mental food. As in the Bible said, that man cannot live by food alone. But you take food as anna or roti or whatever it may be, it is not enough. Because we have a brain, we have a mind, we have consciousness. We know what is good, what is bad, what is right, what is wrong, etc. So when I say what is right, what is wrong, what is good, what is bad, these things are of ethics, morality. There will be some other sessions as regards ethics. I will not discuss so much. But along with aesthetic sense, you need ethical sense also. That means whatever you are going to write, it must be benevolent to the people. It must carry the goodness to the people. As in Buddhism it is said, Bahujana Sukhayo. Bahujana Sukhayo. You have to read for Bahujana Sukhayo so that people feel happy by reading your piece of writing. If you cannot make people happy, then it is useless writing. Whether you write it or not, that's the same thing. If you cannot have a better writing, it is better not to write at all. In Assam it's called the Zabor Thor Likhile Nohobo. So that's why you put it in black and white, as Byron says. Such a respect is wisely shown as make another sense one's soul. You see, the last line is, and makes another sense one's own. Another sense, writer's sense. And the sense of the writer is made by the reader as his own. It is called Atmasat Karana. So you see, you are receiving something for the writer. The writers are necessary so that we can receive something. We can receive something. So it is very necessary that language is to be transformed into literature. Meaning, you are to write in newspaper. As today's topic is newspaper, I must confine to newspaper alone. So when you go to write in newspaper, then it must give the impetus to the people to respond. If you cannot infuse this response, then it is meaningless. Your writing will not be accepted by people. So you see, as I have said, the newspapers contain so many things, dramas, short stories, etc., etc. I have been writing in newspapers since my childhood. I read Assam Tribune since when I was class 6. As you know, the Gyanpith Award is Nilamani Fugon poet. He was my neighbor. And when I was in school, he was working in the Tribune press along with his uncle. He was the editor, his uncle at the time, Lakshmanath Fugon. He sent me the Tribune of Sunday Tribune to me. And there were many, at that time, the standard of the paper was very high. So I began reading those things from my very childhood. And afterwards, I began to write on the newspapers. And up till now, I have written more than 500 articles in newspaper, different newspaper, both in English and Assamese. Now, yesterday or day before yesterday, also 2 articles were published in the paper Dainik Agradut. So you see, I have some experience how to write in a newspaper. So if you want to be I'm speaking particularly to the students. If you want to be a writer or a newspaper writer, you begin it from today. You begin it. And to begin it, these things are necessary. A creative mind. You see, you have gone through perhaps the different Puranas. Definitely you have gone through the Bhagavata Purana. There are 18 Puranas in Sanskrit. Now the characters of the Puranas mainly were gods and goddesses. Those were the creations of those writers. Those ancient, there are no real gods. Those are the characters of the Puranas. Puranas are the mythical stories. And these mythical stories were invented by the writers themselves. And they also invented these characters. You see, for example, the Mahabharata. You see, the names of the character is according to their nature. For example, Dusasana. Dusasana is difficult to control. Yudhishthira, one who is sthir, who is fixed in Yudhi, that means in war. Such characters have been created. These are not real facts, you see. These are not real stories. All these were the conjectures created in the human mind. You see, so many characters were created in the Mahabharata. That is due to imagination. But one thing you remember, that imagination should not go up to fancy. You know that the novels, etc., they are known as fiction. Now, is a creative writing a fictional writing? Should a creative writing be necessarily fiction? Fiction means completely out of reality. Yes. You see, in the Mahabharata, when Vyasa was writing Mahabharata, when Valmiki was writing Ramayana, although these were the fabricated stories, there was the real basis. The events which are going on there are really happening in the world. The Mahabharata war, for example, such kinds of wars at the time where they are among the different clans which were living in ancient India. Real wars were there, and those have been reflected in the Mahabharata. So writing is nothing but a reflection of what is actually happening in the real world. What is reflection? Reflection in Assamese is called Pratifalan. Suppose you are standing in front of your mirror. Your reflection will be there in the mirror. Your mind is something like a mirror. When you experience something, then it mirrors the image of that something. Suppose I'm speaking, I'm uttering a word, flower. Suppose the word, the thing flower is not before you now. But you understand what flower is. Why? Because when I utter the very name flower, the image of the flower comes to your mind. And that image leads you some past experience, you see. So somewhere or somewhere you come into contact with a real flower. You plucked it and smelled it. So the images are necessary. And out of images, ideas come. And with the ideas you write. You write with what? With ideas. So ideas are now ideas. Where do ideas are? You see, the fish remain in water. Without water, a fish cannot remain. So ideas are there in our mind. Now, what is mind? There is no any concrete thing as mind. The mind is nothing but the function of our brain. Brain is a physiological thing which is there within our skull. So ideas are there in our mind, means in our consciousness. And mostly ideas are constructed. The concepts are constructed. You construct the idea of beauty from the beautiful things. Beauty is not a tangible thing like a beautiful flower. You can touch the flower. You cannot touch beauty. So what you can simply think of beauty. You can simply imagine beauty. So you see, as I said, the imagination is very much necessary in creative writing. How imagination is constituted? Imagination is constituted out of images. And I have said already what image is. So images are constituted out of your perceptual experience. And to have perceptual experience, you must have sensation. And to have sensation, you must have sense organs. It is said in psychology that perception is the interpretation of sensation. And who interprets? Your mind interprets. Suppose you are coming to the concept with a particular flower, and you call it rose. So how could you know it is rose? Because flower is a vague concept, you see. But rose is a concrete concept. From the vague or the abstract concept of beauty, we have come to the concrete flower. And again, from the concrete flower, the beautiful flower, you form an idea, namely beauty. Similarly, truth is like that. So your writing must be logical, must be ethical, must be aesthetical. When I say your writing must be logical, I mean that you insist on truth. Logic gives us truth. To be logical means to be systematic. You see, when I said you that out of the whole Buddhism you are making one call, meaning you are infusing some system in the seeds, whole seeds. The system gives rise to form. So you can have the idea of system through logic. You may not have read logic, that's a different thing. You may not be a logician, but you must have logical thinking. You must have systematic thinking. Only then there will be coherence in your writing. So coherence is very necessary. System is very necessary. So to have system, to have form, you must be logical. Then your writing must lead to some goodness, from social welfare. Herein lies the concept art for life's sake. Art is not for art's sake. Because it is your pleasure, you are writing, but you are writing for somebody else. Once I asked Syed Abdul Malik in a tea table, "Sir, do you believe in art for life's sake?" He said, "No, I don't believe." Then I asked, "Why, sir?" So I write because I like to write. Whether those writings will be beneficial for the society or not, I am not concerned. I don't support him, you see. That whatever I am going to do, if that doing will harm the society, if my writing will harm the society, I think it's better not to write. Better not to write. I have already said you that yes, it is true that writing must bring us pleasure. Writing must give us enjoyment. But at the same time, writing must have some message. Bhakta. Therefore, it is called Bhakta. You see, news is called Bhakta. News is called Bhakta Bahok. It carries the Bhakta. It carries the news. So you will have to give something to the society. You will have to send some Bhaktas to the society. You will have to be able to give some message to the society. So the society may be good. We cannot allow the society as it is going now. We must think of the betterment of future society. We have to live for our posterity so that the posterity can light something equally good. So that posterity can learn from us something. It is necessary. Now, you see, in the museums, the old papers are kept, and those old papers will give you the history. If you examine a newspaper from its very inception up till now, that you will understand the history of that society in which the newspaper is published. So it is an element of history, you see. It's an element of literature. It carries a particular age, but it's in Assam it's called Jugo. We call it Ramdhenu Jugo. We call it Jayanti Jugo. Why? It erects a Jugo, it erects an age. Ramdhenu, that magazine, you see. It introduces an age, Jayanti or Jonaki, of that age of Lakshmanath Bezbura, etc. Jonaki is an age. Jonaki Juk. So a newspaper, or a magazine also a newspaper, it may be regarded as a newspaper, monthly or yearly, whatever you call it. It may be a journal. So, you see, it is necessary. I'll speak something about fisher writing. And I'm not going about the mechanism of those reading communication they study. They know it, that hard news, soft news, and direct news, or the fisher writing. Fisher writing is very much important in newspapers. It is not like something is reported as it is. The fisher writing, along with the objective element, there is also subjective. Along with objective element, there is subjective element. And the subjective element is given by your imagination. What you think within your mind. You have to infuse your thinking in that writing. Yes, you are taking the materials from the objective, no doubt. But you are give something, you are give food to the writing, to the skeleton. And it is possible through imagination. Therein lies the creativity. So in fisher writing, there's much more creativity. Or in soft writing, there are two things in newspaper writing, hard writing and soft writing. Hard writing is nothing, the informing something is happening, that the house, the town is on fire. This event, when you go to report it, that's hard writing. But when you go to write fisher writing on some topic or subject, And some subjective elements will have to be infused in it. And that subjective element requires creativity. Subjective elements requires your imagination. So there are many other things to speak, but now 1 hour Kasturi, should I wind up or some questions and answers will be there?
Sir, if you want to say some more, you are most welcome to do so. But we will open the house for session.
All right, you open the house for question and answer, for discussion. I don't know.
Okay, sir. Champak, kindly wrap up and open the house for discussion.
Thank you very much, sir, for your valuable words. Now we'll have some questions. It's open for all. The participants can ask questions directly or can put in the chat box. I will work as mediator for the questions.
Itu question answer. He boleh ke?
Sir would love to answer a few questions. If you have participants, you may ask questions now.
Champak, just a moment. Basanta Mangal, sir, if you have a question, please ask the question, or else I would like to request you to mute your microphone. Thank you.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello, sir. I would like to ask you one question. As you have said about aestheticism and ethics of creative writing, okay, can you explain about art for art's sake and art for morality's sake?
All right, very good question. So ethics, there's a difference between morality and ethics, you see. Ethics or morality is primarily concerned with action, and action is concerned with will. You see, there are three functions of our mind. One is thinking, the other is willing, the third is feeling. So willing, when we call morality, it depends on our willing, for example. And when we say moral action, it means voluntary action, meaning the work you do at your own will. A compulsive action, for example, an action under compulsion cannot be said to be a moral action. Even stealing something is a moral action if the person does at his own will. But stealing is not a morally good action. A morally good action is called ethical action. So moral action means a voluntary action, an action done by your own will without compulsion. So stealing, dacoiting, or killing a person may be a moral action, but this action cannot be a morally good action, meaning it cannot be an ethical action. Now, when you say that what is the difference between art for art's sake, art for ethical sense? So I have said you in the very lecture that you have to write for the good of the society, for the welfare of the society. If your writing does not bring about anything good to the society, it is meaningless. It is better not to write. So art is not only for enjoyment. There must be some teaching that you are to do this thing. You see, in our olden days, in our Vedic age, we have vidhi and avidhi, injunction and prohibition. There are certain things you do this. There are certain things you do not do this. You do not kill a power, that is nisedha. You do not kill a man, that is nisedha. Tell the truth, it is vidhi. It is instruction. So if a newspaper contributes to the eruption of some communal fighting, suppose, then it is not a good writing. If your writing leads to some communal fear, communal disruption, then it is definitely, it will not do the good of the society. So art is no doubt a very good thing. I have always said you that without art, nothing that you are wearing your sari or churidar or whatever it may be, you are wearing in a decent way. You are arranging food, the food plate for your guest, you are arranging in a better way. So that it becomes congenial, it becomes wholesome. So ethical, I have already said you that along with the aesthetic sense, you must have the ethical sense. The aesthetic sense means art for art's sake. Ethical sense means art for ethical sense, meaning art for the good of the people. Are you clear of the difference?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. Anything more question? Any more question?
Sir, can I ask you one more question?
Yes, why not?
Yeah. Sir, but as you said, language should be transformed into literature. And how is it possible?
Oh yes, good question. I have always said you that yes, we write with language. Language is the basic thing which we should write. Without language, you cannot write. I quote one thing from you see from Bindu Kumar Bhattacharya. You have heard the name. He was the first Gyanpith awardee. He wrote with reference to Sri Aurobindo, ভাষা হৈছে সকলো সাধনাৰ সিংহ দুৱাৰ. Very good writing. ভাষা হৈছে সকলো সাধনাৰ সিংহ দুৱাৰ. সিংহ দুৱাৰ, you know, the main gate through which you can enter into thought. In Marxist quarters, it is said that thought is not possible without language. It is said that we learn to speak, how to speak first. Then we learn to how to think. The language first comes. We also think with the help of language, you see. It is implicit language. It is implicit language. And talking or speaking is nothing but, or writing is nothing but loudly thinking. When you speak, it is nothing but loud thinking. Language is the vehicle of your thought. Suppose I am thinking something. You cannot know what I am thinking unless I express it through my language. Then only you will be through understandable language. Then only you will understand what I am thinking, otherwise not. Now I have already said you that language is a skeleton. Yes, you write with language. But language is not enough. You have to infuse beauty in it. So you see, to transform language into literature, you will have to add to the skeleton that is language, the beauty, the aesthetic sense. You see, language is the physical thing. It exists in words, it exists in sentences, etc. But literature is not a physical thing. It is something psychological. So you have to infuse something in your writing, skeleton writing. So as I said you that Suskam Kastam Tistoti of greatest language, but Nirasata Rubara Purato Bhati, it is literature. Difference is. So I referred so many things about the difference. You see, I am quote one thing from Max Muller. Max Muller was a great philosopher. At the same time, he was a philologist, linguistic expert. He wrote, a classical language that rules supreme for a time is swept away violently in the end by the undercurrent of popular dialects, by the voice of the people. You see, when you go to write in newspaper, you cannot write with classical language. Which are the classical language? The classical language in Assam is called Dhupadi Sahitya. You see, although it is called Dhupadi means eternal, but it is a wrong translation. The ancient writing, particularly the religious writing, for example, our Vedas, our Upanishads, the Puranas, the Iliad, the Odyssey, the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, these are classical writings. Even you can regard Shakespearean writing is classical. Now you see, a time was there when there was a difference between spoken language and written language. Written language should be a bit different from spoken language. In spoken language, some vulgarity may be there, but in written language, that vulgarity should not be there. So, what we speak, although it is saying that we are to write in the modern age, Max Muller says, we are to write with popular dialects. Because he says, only through popular dialects, the voice of the people is revealed. Now, in a newspaper, you record the voice of the people. It is not the case that only in newspaper you record the voice of the people. In other sources of writing also you record the voice of the people. We write of the people, for the people. We write of the people and we write something for the people. So it must be in a language which is understandable to those people. One thing you remember that when the missionaries came to India, came to Assam particularly, they want to spread Christianity in the villages of Assam. And at that time, in schools and colleges and in government offices, not the Assamese language was prevalent. The prevalent was Bengali language. And when those missionaries, for example, Bronson, he went to the villages of Assam, he wanted to talk with the village people in Bengali, but the village people did not understand what he said. Then they realized, it is wrong to say that the Assamese is a dialect of Bengali. He came to realize that Assamese is not the dialect of Bengali. It has the old tradition. You see, it is said, it was admitted by Suniti Kumar Chattopadhyay also that the Assamese prose is older than Bengali prose. Bhattadeva, you have heard, he read Katha Gita, Katha Bhagavat prior to Shankardev. So they came to know that the Assamese is an independent language. It is not the dialect of Bengali, but it is the sister language. Hindi, Assamese, Bengali, Uriya, all these are sister languages coming from Sanskrit mostly. So local dialects have been added, no doubt. But mostly in Assamese, you see there are 75% words of Sanskrit. In Bengali, something more. In Hindi, of course, more words are there of Arabic origin. In newspaper, in Assamese, it is called Khabar Kagos. Now, what is the meaning of the khabar? Khabar is not an Indian word. It is an Arabic word. Khabar is an Arabic word. And it has become so Assamesized that people do not know that it is an Arabic word. And the Sanskrit version of this khabar is sangbad. The sangbad is a Sanskrit word. So here in Assamese, the word khabar is much more prevalent than sangbad. So you see, the main thing you remember that to write a literature you are to use language, and only language literature cannot be there. You are to infuse some beauty or aesthetic sense in language, then it can be transformed into literature. Are you clear?
Yes, sir.
All
Thank
right.
you.
All right.
Uh, okay, sir. Can I say that we have to create beauty in our expression? That means we have to transform our language into literature to create motivation. The
Yes.
purpose of it is yes.
Yes, yes. Tell me what you want to say.
Yes, I want to say that why we should transform language into literature.
Hmm.
Uh, that means we have to create beauty
Hmm.
in our expression, in our language.
Yeah.
And what is the purpose of creating beauty? Is to make our language motivational. Is it true?
Yes, to some extent true. You see, I have already told that you are to create response from the public, from the reader. So how you can how you can expect response from the public through motivation. Motivation is a psychological word, you see. Now you are to create beauty. The beauty is a subjective affair. Beauty consists in feeling. Suppose you are seeing a rose flower. You are elated by seeing. When we see something is beautiful, we like it. We like to see a beautiful woman. We like to see the uh, full moon. Full moon. That is the Purnima zone, what we call. We like to see the natural sceneries. We like to see a beautiful picture. For example, Mona Lisa. The Mona Lisa. So I'm giving an example, Mona Lisa. You see, there is something in the very smile of the woman done by the artist. Now, on that very concept, smiling, thousands of books have been written due to interpretation. Interpretation may vary. You see, in philosophy, there is a background story that is Brahma Sutra written by Baruah, and that Brahma Sutra has been interpreted by very many writers. And on the basis of those interpretations, different ideologies have sprung up. For example, Advaita Vada, Visistadvaita Vada, Dvaita Vada, Suddhadvaita Vada, etc., etc. It depends upon interpretation. Now, you should allow, through your writing, you should allow the reader to interpret your writing. And for the writing, that motivation should be there. Now, how you can motivate? When your writing will be elegant, when your writing will be liked by the people, by the readers, then only they will respond, otherwise not. So you have to motivate them. Suppose you are to motivate your child or your student to read something, to read books, you have to motivate. And to motivate, you have to create an environment. You have to, through your newspaper, through your writing, you have to create such an environment in the society so that the readers are bound to be motivated by your writing, so that they can think independently of something, so that new thoughts might come to their mind. So motivation is necessary, and that motivation might come from literature, you see. Language plus beauty is literature. Meaning language plus aesthetic sense. Aesthetic sense means the sense of beauty. Every man has the sense of beauty. Every man likes beauty, but every man cannot express this motive, cannot express this impression. We express our impression, but every man has no capacity to express what I feel. Suppose I have some pain in my hand. The doctor asks me, what kind of pain is this? I cannot explain to him because it is my personal feeling, subjective feeling. It is very difficult to express what I feel. So those writers are successful when they can reveal fully what they feel, that their emotions, their feelings, their imaginations, their intuitions. When they'll be able to express them through language, then they will be liked by people. People will be motivated by your writing. So one intention should be there behind your writing, that is motivation. You will have to motivate the people to read. You will have to motivate the writer to do the good. You will have to motivate the readers to behave in an ethical way. You see, in our society, so many things are there, bad things are there. Being a writer, you should have the message so that society can be reformed, so that bad things may go away from society. Otherwise, what is the use of your writing? So you see, this ethical sense, for example, give the motivation to the readers. Is it clear? Are you clear?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Uh,
Sir, we have another question in the chat box from
hmm.
Ruprekha Devi. So I will read it out. Sir, at present scenario, some writers of this field become more and more professional, where some realities are covered, being hidden, motivating by their vested interest or under pressure of some powerfuls. Is it justifiable? This question is from Ruprekha Devi.
Never it is justifiable. I have already said you the three things must be there in your writing. Thank you, Sampak Datta, for your question. Three things must be there in my newspaper writing. One, truth. One, beauty. And the other, goodness. Truth must be there. Without truth. So if somebody goes to write under the pressure of somebody else, he cannot present the truth. And he will never be a good writer. It can never be justified that you covering up the reality and you are camouflaging something. You see, in the Vedanta, in the Maya theory, there are two concepts: covering up of reality, projection of unreality. And projection of unreality is called Maya or illusion in Vedantic parlance. Now, when a reporter or when a newspaper writer goes to cover up something and goes to project something not real, something not true, then how can it be acceptable? We cannot accept the untruth. There's a difference between truth and reality. A proposition can be true and untrue. And a thing can be real and unreal. A proposition, that means a sentence, will be true when it will represent the real object. A sentence will be wrong when it will represent the falsity or when it will project the unreality. It will be untrue. Now, should we stick to untruth? It is said in the Upanishad, Satyam eva jyoti. That means Satyam, that is truth, is everlasting. Even if you go on writing false things, or even if you go on writing under pressure of somebody else, it will never be everlasting. It will never be Sanatana. The truth prevails, you see. So therefore, the writer must stick to the truth. That somebody says, you write this thing, you write this way, you do not write this way. If the reporter or if the journalist is going to write in that way, how can you call him a journalist in the true sense of the term? Is he honest? See, honesty is very much required in writing. Whatever writing may be, mostly in newspaper writing, it is much more because the readership of newspaper is much more than other writing. When I take my tea in the morning, I like to see the newspaper, read the newspaper. I may not read Ramayana Mahabharata. I may not read Iliad Odyssey. I may not read Karl Marx. I may not read Das Kapital. I may not read the other classics. But most of the people, I don't know how much percentage of the people read newspapers, but most of the people read a newspaper. They like to have a newspaper. So newspapers are very much popular things. It creates public opinion. Mind it creates public opinion. It molds public opinion. And public opinion is very much necessary in a democracy. In a democracy, if your press is not free, then what is the use of the press? What is the use of the newspaper? It is a fifth pillar, it is said, democracy. It gives answers to the minds of the people. It gives the messages of the people, what they think, what the mass people think. We are to write for the mass people, Karl Marx said. That we are not to write for the pujipotis, for the capitalists. We are to write for the mass people, because mass people are much more ignorant. They are much more befooled. They are innocent people. So it is said in Sanskrit, Jasya nasti swayam pragya sastram tasya karutakim losanaibhyang vihinasya darpana king korisyati. If you have don't eyes, the mirror will be useless for you. If you have known own knowledge, writing will be meaningless. Pustakasya sthasya. You see, when the knowledge is there within the book, you see, a book is nothing but the made of papers. Now, within the book, what is there? Knowledge is there. So, knowledge which is there in a book, knowledge which is there in a newspaper, that is very much pure. And when the knowledge must be pure, it must be truth. Only truth can be pure. Falsity can never be pure. That's why you see, under pressure, I have already said you, that if you go to do something under pressure, that is not called a moral action. That is a compulsive action. That is not done by your own will. That is done by others' will. And that other has some motive. He is motivated that he is utilizing you to work for him. If a writer be the instrument of somebody else, we have got a personality, you see. We have got a free will. If I sell the free will to the capitalists, to the people with ulterior motives, then how can you regard me a writer, a honest writer? So honesty is very much necessary. I never accept the concept that somebody will write under the pressure of somebody else. And I don't regard him as a writer itself because he is doing harm to the society. He is not revealing truth to the society. He is not giving goodness to the society. He is not speaking to truth. But one day, the people will recognize him. Chini pabo in Assamese call. And that writing will be rather removed from the minds of the people. That is my viewpoint, of course. All right. Are you clear? Any question?
Lalit Chandra Gogoi, you raised your hand. Do you have any question for sir? If there is no any other question, I'd like to go to the end of the session. Participants, if you have any question, you may ask. As it seems, we don't have any questions, sir. Before signing off, I'd like to express my sense of gratefulness to our resource person, Dr. Girish Baruah, sir, for his prolific words and for his graceful presence. I'd like to thank all the participants for their cooperation and participation in this 1 week long workshop. And I'd like to thank the organizing committee starting at Department of Chemistry, Economics of Bahona College, IQAC of Bahona College, and sponsors. And in the last, I'd like to thank Dr. Kasturi Goswami for giving me this opportunity to function as moderator for this wonderful session. Thank you very much. I wish you all a good day and stay tuned for the next session. The session code for
I have a message to give to the students. Will you allow me?
yes, sure, sir, definitely. You go ahead, sir, please.
All right. Now many students are listening to my lecture, to my discussion, and I request them to make the habit to write. To read the newspaper every day, whether in the college library or at home, wherever it may be. If they get the chance, make it a regular habit to read a newspaper. And apart from that, I also request them to begin writing in newspapers. They practice. Let them practice it, so that in future there will be good writer. There will be an editor of a newspaper. You see, I have forgotten to say one thing. The editorial is the very crux of a newspaper. The editorial is very important, you see. Many people, they first read the editorial. So editorial gives the message of the newspaper's ideology and what the paper thinks about what is happening in society. So editorial is a very necessary thing to be read. I request the readers, particularly the students, to read mostly the editorial and the articles which are written in the editorial page. That is also very much important. You may not read books. Nowadays, the book reading has become obsolete due to phones and internet, etc. But even then, I request you read the newspaper and particularly the editorial, because the editorial which is there in a newspaper, you may not find in the news. You may not find in the TV. You may not find in your phone. So only you will find it in the newspaper. Don't read other things, but read the editorial. That is very much important. And another column is also there in newspaper, that is letters to the editor. So we can express that something is happening or something you need for your society, for your place, for your region. Then you can express it in your newspaper. That is also necessary. So try to write the newspaper columns, newspaper articles. Try to practice how to write editorial. You publish from your institution's magazine, yearly magazines. You have to write there the editorial. Even letters to the editor may be there. So you practice from now on, so that you can be a good writer in newspaper. You can be a good editor. You can be a good feature writer, story writer, etc. So my message is to you to practice writing and reading. So at the end, I congratulate, rather, I thank Bahona College, particularly the economics department, for giving me the opportunity to speak something. I'm an old man, 82 years old. There may be a generation gap. My thinking, my speaking may not be liked by the present generation. Yet, as Dr. Kasturi Goswami requested me to say something on this occasion, I have obliged her request, and I thank especially her for her request, as she has given me the opportunity to talk with the young people of today. So I thank all the people who are listening to me, and those people, those students especially, who have asked me questions, and certain things have been also clarified to me. In going to clarify certain things, certain concepts, usually concept clarification is very much necessary. Until you have the clear concept of a particular thing, you may not have good knowledge. I request so all of you to clarify the concepts, and in other sessions also, when you are present, you please try to ask the question, whatever questions may come to your mind. You ask the research person the questions, you'll be able to apply. So I thank you all, and I hope that the later sessions also will be very much successful. And I am very glad that the Bahona College has introduced this system. It is very much necessary nowadays to have discussion, because discussion makes a man perfect. Reading, writing, and discussion, these things are necessary so that you may have perfect knowledge. So thank you all for giving me this opportunity. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Before signing off, I'd like to announce the session code. The session code is GO, as in Guwahati Orange. That will be all. I wish you all a very good day. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Baruah, sir.
Oh, thank you.
It was such a pleasure having you today.
All right. Thank you very much for your compliments.